Moving right on into the emissive materials then. So emissive materials are essentially just materials. They have relatively simple material applications, but they can get really complex if you need to create like filtered materials or lighting materials or emissive materials that you can actually see texture in. That gets very complicated. I don't anticipate that we're going to be doing that in this class. So let's take a look at some emissive materials. What I'd like you to do is go back to your scene manager and go into the materials panel. And this is going to be the first material that we actually just create from scratch. These are pretty easy to create. So, new emitter. Okay, right click, go to new emitter. Okay, it's going to show up as a little white orb. Double click that. And the first thing that I want to show you here on this panel, well, if you expand it, the first thing I want to show you is the preview setting. Okay, this preview setting is actually incredibly important. With an emitter, it's frequently more important to see it in an actual physical space, right? So like you can create a sphere which is more geared toward flat materials and textures and stuff like that, but it's going to be more applicable to you to create, like, say, a 2 meter emitter space. And then when you click on the refresh preview button here, it's actually going to show you a room. You can't really see much in that room right now because the light isn't powerful enough. Okay, so in case you missed that, under this menu right there, just go to emitter 2 meter and then refresh right here. Okay. There's not much you need to do here right now. Just jump over to the Emitter Settings. That's right here. And I just quickly want to point out the color. So remember I mentioned color temperature. We have blues to whites all the way to red, right? So that's the color temperature range. Generally it all defaults to a white light in the center, and then, you know, depending on what kind of light you're trying to create, you can go either way. You can just leave it as a standard color for white for now. Don't worry about these settings too much. We're probably going to mostly use default emitters throughout this class, but the only ones that we're going to modify and modify tremendously are watts and efficacy. So without, I guess, getting too technical, think of watts as the amount of potential a light has, or power that a light has sort of coming out of the light, and think of efficacy about how well that type of light filters through the space. Okay, so if I bump up my wattage to, say, 200 watts, right, I can refresh that. Actually, let's go even higher. Let's make it really, really obvious. Let's go to 1,000. Wow, that's not even going to do it. Hang on. This is a 2 meter space, right? Oh, okay, sorry. That's right. So I want to point something out, right? So if I make a change in the text box, okay, let's say I change it to 5,000. Okay, 5,000 watts. If I just go right to the refresh preview, it won't change. Okay, you have to actually click out of that text box for it to take the change into effect, and then to actually change that lighting. Okay, so I just want to point out what the difference is between wattage and efficiency. I mean, efficacy, sorry. So wattage is definitely increasing the power of that light, right? So the source of the light and all of the light that's really close to the source is getting more intense, and by extension it's filling up more of the space. However, the efficacy has stayed the same. If I increase the efficacy, let's say to 100, what you're going to see is that that light begins, oh, I didn't change that, there we go. That light is going to fill up far more of the space closer to the source, right? It's a more pure light that fills up more of the space. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know, it's a little hard. Sometimes it's pretty small. So anyway, that's a balancing act. You need to think about, you know, you need to think about the kind of light that you want to be filling up your space, right? So if your efficacy is really high, then you're going to get really just a really well just blasted lit room. Think like you bring work lights and halogen lights home, and that's what you use to light your house, right? But if you wanted to create something that's a little bit more homely, like something you would read a book next to, you would change a few things. You would change your color to be a little bit warmer, maybe not that warm, but you would keep your wattage down. Maybe, for accentuation, I'm going to change it to 200 and 100. So that creates sort of a softer, warmer light. Okay, and just to accentuate it even more, okay, you can even go all the way to like orange tones. Okay, so of all of the lights we're going to be doing for pretty much this entire semester, that's about where I want you guys to keep it. I want you to maybe change the color a little, definitely change wattage and efficacy in order to suit your needs and light the space. Okay? All right. Now, so we're going to have two different types of lights. I guess what we're going to do in this one is let's keep it to, a slightly warmer light, because this is a pretty cool space. And I'm going to put my wattage, I guess I'll leave it at 400 and 100 for now. Okay? I'll see how it looks and then we'll change it. Okay, so that's one of them. You can close that, and that's going to actually show here. We now need another emitter. One of them is going to be a different kind of light, a different color light. So you can duplicate this and modify it appropriately here. So right-click it and go to Clone Material. Now it just says Emitter 2. I don't care what you guys call it. You can call it warm light, cool light, light 1, light 2. Doesn't matter to me. Just double-click in the second one, and let's change it to like a cooler blue color. And if you really wanted to, you could change the wattage and efficacy, but I'm just going to make it a little bit of a cooler light like that. Okay, yes?
After we change the color, we can just exit out of that screen?
Yeah. Yeah, once you change those settings, they're set.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no save button or anything like that. Okay. Now, the moment of truth really is here, I guess, for our first lighting exercise. What I want you to do is take one of the lights, apply them to the up lights, and take another light and apply it to the down lights. For me, I'm going to apply my warm light to my up lights and my cool light to my down lights. And so with that, I'll just do another draft render, but I have to reset my camera. So something changed. I have pieces missing. Oh, I know what I did. I didn't save. So just a point of clarification here, I guess. So remember this one here? I moved my camera in and I changed my lens angle, but I didn't save that camera position. So now I have to kind of reset it. Just wanted to give you a heads up at how important that actually is. So I'll do that. But I'm going to stop the video and run a draft, and then I'll close the video with after it's done. Okay. So, the point of all of this, I know it's a little bit dark on the projection screen. Maybe I can increase the brightness a little bit. Oh, it might refresh. Anyway, what I want to show you here is really, I guess, it may or may not refresh in time here on screen, but if you look at the preview down here, you guys all can see that preview, right? A little bit? A little bit? I know it's tiny. But see how here on the multi-light menu we now have a couple of different options. I just wanted to point out that these two sliders for Emitter and Emitter 2, right? Those are the ones that we created, obviously. So we have the ability to increase or decrease the amount of light in the space after we've already rendered it. So yeah, it's not updating. But taking a look at that preview, you can see that I'm turning the up light off by sliding it down. Or I could turn it up all the way. The down light I can turn off. I can turn them both off, whatever. I can just go up lights. Usually it updates every sampling level. It'll go faster once it's done rendering. Maybe if I stop it. There we go. It fixed it. So now I turn my down light off, and I just have the up light on. I can turn my down light on and decrease my up light. See? So That's very significant. That's extremely powerful. So just, what I want to stress, I guess, is making sure that you can calibrate these appropriately. So there is one thing that I think you may or may not have noticed at first, right? So my emitters were defaulted to 400 watts. Each one was 400 watts. But down here, I can change those. I could just type them in, start it off 400 watts each. But there's a limit. It can go all the way down to 0, and it can go all the way up to 1,000. If I created an emitter that had 10,000 watts, it would have a different limit. So just, where you start is kind of a ballpark for where you could possibly go, and it's proportional. I don't know the mathematics on exactly where it calibrates the maximum, but anyway, just know that there is a maximum. So put those all the way up, refresh. Boom, lights. Yeah.
If you have two emitters that have one 1,000 and one 400, how would you calibrate that?
Each one is going to have its own maximum. Yeah, so they have the same values because I set them to have the same values, just different color. But if I set one to 1,000 and one to 400, it would just adjust the scale to have a different maximum. Yeah, because each one is a different line. I mean, if I made 100 different types of lights, you would have 100 different sliders at the bottom of this. It's difficult to manage, but yeah. So, not a good best practice to create 100 different types of lights.
And for that was just a quick, use it a quick render?
Yeah, just a 10-minute one. Yeah. Okay. So I guess what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys a break, a little bit of work time to make sure that you can get to this level, that you have some lights in your space. And then I'm going to give you the instructions for the draft render that we're going to produce for today. Okay, and that's going to happen over the course of the last hour of class. Okay, any questions so far? All right, cool. Let's take a 10-minute break. So at 8:45, we'll get back together.